Imagine a prison where you are the architect, the builder, and the inmate. A cage whose bars you polish daily, believing them to be a monument to your freedom. This is not a metaphor. It is the final state of a will that has been conquered. They did not break down your gates, they convinced you to lock them from the inside. The question is not how they will take your power, but how they will make you surrender it, smiling as you do. This is the art we must now dissect. The world trains you to expect the clash of swords, the declared war, the open competitor. You are taught to build your fortress, to heighten your walls, and to count your soldiers. Your mind is fixed on the external threat, the rival who announces his ambition through direct action. You measure power in visible assets, resources, status, authority, and so you prepare for a medieval siege. You hoard supplies. You sharpen your arguments like blades. You watch the horizon for the enemy's banners. This is the grand and noble error of the idealist. It is the fatal miscalculation of a mind that sees conflict only in its most primitive, theatrical form. You believe the greatest danger is the battering ram that splinters the main gate, the frontal assault that tests your strength. You are preparing for the wrong war. While you stand on the ramparts, watching for an army that may never come, the real war is being waged in the quiet corridors of your own court. It is a war of whispers, of carefully placed favors, of masterfully engineered perceptions. The true strategist, the one who has studied the immutable science of human nature, has no interest in shattering your walls. Why waste the energy and risk the casualties of open war when a far more permanent victory can be achieved without a single drop of blood? Why destroy a fortress when you can be invited inside and handed the keys? The greatest threat is not the roaring lion at the gates, but the silent fox already in the council chamber, the one you call advisor, partner, or friend. This adversary understands that real power is not a fortress to be conquered, but a throne to be occupied. And the throne that matters most is the seat of your own will. To seize it, they will not use force. They will use you. They will study your strengths, your weaknesses, your virtues, and your vanities, not to break them, but to turn them into the very instruments of your own subjugation. Your strength becomes their weapon. Your virtue becomes their shield. Your ambition becomes the engine that drives you towards a destination of their choosing. You are focused on a game of chess, meticulously planning your moves, while your opponent is not playing against you, but is instead subtly guiding your hand, making you believe each of their chosen moves was your own brilliant idea. This is the cold, hard ground upon which Machiavelli built his entire philosophy. He was not a teacher of evil, but a cartographer of reality, a man who stripped away the comforting illusions of how men should be and drew a stark, precise map of how they are. He observed that the most potent form of control is not coercion, but seduction, not of the body, but of the will itself. For as he wrote with timeless clarity, men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. This is the foundational principle of all power that is stolen in plain sight. It is not taken by force, it is willingly transferred. The master manipulator does not break your will, he bends it. He re-sculpts your desires. He corrupts your ambition until it perfectly serves his own. He makes you want what he wants you to want, and he makes you believe the desire was born in your own heart. The battlefield, then, is your own mind. The weapons are not iron and steel, but perception, obligation, doubt, and praise. The objective is not to make you surrender, but to make you an enthusiastic collaborator in your own undoing. They will work to isolate you, not by building walls around you, but by convincing you to build them yourself. They will disarm you, not by taking your sword, but by persuading you that to draw it would be an act of dishonor. The ultimate victory for them is not your defeat, but your transformation into a willing instrument of their design. You will act against your own interests, sacrifice your own allies, and dismantle your own defenses, all while holding a sincere belief that you are acting with wisdom and sovereign authority. This is the nature of the invisible war. It is subtle, patient, and devastatingly effective precisely because the victim rarely sees the bars of his cage until the door has already been locked, often by his own hand. To defend against such a strategy requires a new kind of vision, a willingness to see the intricate architecture of manipulation that underlies human interaction. It demands that you stop listening to what people say and focus entirely on what their actions are designed to achieve. For the strongest fortress is the one that crumbles from within. The greatest defeat is one you orchestrate yourself, believing it to be a victory. Comment. The fox recognizes the trap to learn to identify the invisible tactics that turn your autonomy into a weapon against yourself, and subscribe. To conquer a will, you must first lay the foundations for its surrender. These foundations are not built with threats or overt aggression, which a vigilant mind can easily identify and repel. Instead, they are constructed from the most noble materials available: gratitude and self-preservation. The master of strategy understands that the most inescapable prisons are those we enter willingly, believing them to be sanctuaries. He presents not a sword to threaten you, but a gift to indebt you. He forges not a weapon to strike you, but a chain to bind you to him. We will now examine the first two pillars of this insidious architecture of control, the twin deceptions that exploit your very virtues to disarm you from within. The first of these is the most elegant and cruel: the gilded cage of obligation. The common man expects his rival to make demands, to ask for concessions, to take. The strategic mind does the opposite. He gives. He offers assistance when it is not requested. He provides resources you did not know you needed. He champions your name in rooms you cannot enter. He bestows upon you favors that appear to be born of pure generosity and admiration. This is the first and most critical phase of the deception, for the gift is a seed. On the surface, it is an act of alliance, but in the soil of your psyche it is the root of a profound and binding obligation. He is not your benefactor. He has become your creditor. But the debt is not recorded in any ledger of gold or silver. It is etched into the very fabric of your honor. Men, as Machiavelli knew, are quick to forget injuries but feel bound by benefits. A declared enemy is simple to manage, but a generous rival is a complex and dangerous problem. His gift disarms your suspicion. It makes vigilance seem paranoid and caution appear ungrateful. You accept his offering, and in that moment, a silent contract is signed. You are now a debtor in the economy of goodwill. The manipulator asks for nothing in return, for the genius of this strategy lies in its patience. He allows the debt to mature, to compound with interest in your own conscience. Every time you recall his timely help, the weight of the obligation grows. Your own morality, your desire to be a good and honorable person, becomes the foreman in the construction of your own prison. You begin to adjust your behavior, to soften your stance, to avoid conflict with him, not because he has demanded it, but because your inner sense of fairness insists upon it. The day will inevitably come when this debt is called due. It will not be a crude demand, it will be a quiet request, presented at a moment of critical importance. He will ask you to compromise a principle, to remain silent during an injustice, to support a decision that benefits him at the expense of the greater good, or to abandon an ally. And at this moment, you are trapped. To refuse is to reveal yourself, in your own eyes and perhaps in the eyes of others, as a creature of monstrous ingratitude. It is to confess that his faith in you was misplaced. All the goodwill he has shown you is now weaponized, turned into a form of moral blackmail. The choice is presented as one between your integrity and your honor. Faced with this impossible equation, most will choose to sacrifice a small piece of their integrity, believing it to be a single, necessary payment to balance the scales. But it is never a single payment. It is the first installment. By yielding once, you establish a precedent. You have proven that your principles are negotiable, and he, the creditor of your soul, now owns the mortgage on your will. You inhabit a beautiful cage, one you helped decorate, whose gilded bars are forged from your own sense of duty. From this exploitation of virtue, we move to a darker and more complex strategy, one reserved for a more formidable target. This is the second deception, the forged chain of mutual destruction. If the gilded cage is designed to ensnare your honor, this chain is forged to paralyze your strength. This tactic is not about making you feel indebted. It is about making you feel existentially threatened by your own power to act. The architect of this trap, acting as the cunning fox, does not seek to weaken you directly. Instead, he intricately weaves his own fate together with yours. He will propose joint ventures where success and failure are indivisible. He will merge his reputation with yours through public declarations of partnership and loyalty. He will create a system where your financial security, your projects, or your political standing become inextricably linked to his own. He makes himself a part of your foundation. The goal is to create a strategic stalemate, a state of mutually assured destruction. He has made it so that to harm him is to harm yourself. To expose his incompetence would be to admit your own poor judgment in allying with him. To sever ties would be to dismantle a structure upon which your own stability now depends. You may possess the overwhelming strength of the lion, the virtue to strike a decisive blow and remove him. But you hesitate. The fox has laid a trap not for your body, but for your reason. You calculate the consequences and realize that the lion's roar would bring the entire mountain crashing down upon itself. Your power is thus neutralized. Your capacity for decisive action, which Machiavelli prized as the hallmark of a great leader, is rendered impotent. You are strong, yet paralyzed. You are the sovereign, yet you are not free to act. This is the ultimate victory for the subtle strategist. He does not need to defeat you in open battle. He has achieved a greater prize, your inaction. While you are frozen by calculation, he is free to operate under the umbrella of your protection. He can make errors, knowing you are bound to correct them to save the shared enterprise. He can undermine your other allies, knowing you cannot afford the internal chaos of a public dispute. He has turned your pragmatism, your very instinct for self-preservation, into his shield. You become the reluctant guardian of your own parasite, the warden of a prison in which you are the most important inmate. He has not stolen your power directly. He has stolen your freedom to use it. You hold the scepter, but he dictates the movements of your hand. The chain is not on your wrists but on your will, forged in the fires of shared ambition and cooled in the chilling waters of consequence. You are a king in name, but a hostage in fact, chained to the very rival you should have destroyed. Having laid the foundations of obligation and paralysis, the sophisticated strategist moves to dismantle the very core of his target's power, his self-perception, and his network of support. The first two deceptions operated on the external logic of honor and consequence. These next two are internal, psychological assaults designed to distort the victim's view of himself and the world around him. They are weapons that turn the mind into a hall of mirrors and the court into a barren wasteland. One convinces you to sharpen your own flaws into daggers you will eventually fall upon. The other ensures that when you do, there will be no one left to catch you. Here we dissect the architecture of self-sabotage and engineered isolation. The third deception is a masterstroke of psychological manipulation, the praised flaw. Machiavelli famously warned a prince to beware of flatterers, for they are a pestilence in any court. But this strategy is infinitely more subtle than simple sycophancy. The common flatterer praises your strengths, inflating your ego to make you careless. The true artist of ruin identifies your deepest weakness, your most persistent character flaw, and masterfully reframes it as a profound and admirable virtue. He does not seek to make you arrogant about your talents. He seeks to make you proud of your defects. He holds up a polished mirror that reflects not what you are, but a glorious caricature of your own worst tendencies. Consider the prince who is indecisive. He hesitates, overanalyzes, and delays action, crippled by a fear of making the wrong choice. The simple flatterer would tell him he is brilliant. The master manipulator will praise his unmatched prudence, his remarkable foresight, his philosophical depth. He will commend him for refusing to rush into judgment like lesser, more impulsive men. The prince, insecure about his own inaction, eagerly embraces this narrative. The praise is a balm to his anxious soul. It transforms his vice into a sign of superior intellect. Encouraged by this validation, he leans into the flaw. His hesitation becomes deliberation. His paralysis becomes patience. He cultivates his indecisiveness as a hallmark of his leadership, failing to see that while he is prudently contemplating, his rivals are acting, seizing opportunities, and conquering territory. He has been convinced to practice his own undoing. Likewise, the leader who is overly generous and cannot say no finds his financial and political capital drained by supplicants. The manipulator will not call him weak. He will laud his boundless compassion, his magnanimous spirit, his connection to the common man. His inability to enforce discipline is not a failure of leadership, but a sign of his humanity. The leader, celebrated for his weakness, continues to give until his treasuries are empty and his authority is a memory. The proud and stubborn man is praised for his unshakable conviction. The suspicious and paranoid one is commended for his astute vigilance. In every case, the dynamic is the same. The manipulator identifies the poison that is already in your system and convinces you it is the very elixir of your greatness. He encourages you to drink deeply. He does not need to draw a sword against you, for he has persuaded you to become your own executioner. You will walk confidently toward the cliff's edge, convinced that your fatal plunge is an act of soaring grace. Having turned your own character against you, the final deception aims to dismantle your only remaining safety net, your alliances. Power is never wielded in a vacuum. It relies on a foundation of loyal advisors, reliable allies, and the goodwill of those you lead. The fourth deception, the cultivation of a desert, is designed to systematically destroy this foundation, leaving you utterly and completely alone. This is not achieved through open conflict or by turning your allies against you with overt lies. Such methods are crude and easily traced. Instead, the rival acts as a phantom, a whisperer of shadows, a cultivator of suspicion. He operates not as a lion, but as the quintessential fox, recognizing and exploiting the most delicate and easily broken element of any human relationship: trust. He begins by planting subtle seeds of doubt. To your most loyal general, he might casually remark, "It is remarkable how the prince values your counsel, even when his other advisors seem to question it." This seemingly innocent comment does two things. It suggests a conspiracy among your other advisors and implies that the general's position is more precarious than he thought. To you, concerning that same general, he might say, "The men are so devoted to him. His command is truly absolute." This is not an accusation, but it plants a seed. Is the general's popularity a strength for your state or a threat to your throne? He will engineer small misunderstandings and ensure they are never fully clarified. He will intercept messages, rephrase communications, and subtly misrepresent intentions, always maintaining plausible deniability. He creates a fog of ambiguity and mistrust that slowly thickens, obscuring clear vision and making honest communication impossible. Your court, once a source of strength and sound counsel, begins to feel like a nest of vipers. You start to second-guess the motives of your most trusted confidants. Their honest criticism starts to sound like insubordination. Their ambition starts to look like treason. Simultaneously, your allies, sensing your growing suspicion and withdrawal, begin to distance themselves to protect their own positions. They become more guarded, their counsel more reserved. This very behavior, born of the uncertainty you are now projecting, confirms your worst fears. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The rival has not created disloyalty. He has created the conditions for it. He has built a desert around your throne, not by felling the trees, but by poisoning the well from which they all drink. Eventually, you stand isolated, surrounded by the ghosts of alliances you can no longer trust, deprived of the diverse perspectives and reliable support essential for survival. When your praised flaw inevitably leads you to a catastrophic error, and the moment of crisis finally arrives, you will turn for help and find only silence. The fox, having orchestrated your complete isolation, can then emerge as the lion, the only one left to save you from the chaos he so patiently created. He deposes a king who has already lost his kingdom. You have seen how they poison the well of gratitude and isolate the throne. You now recognize the architecture of betrayal, from the gilded cage that ensnares your honor to the cultivated desert that starves your power. Now that the 4 deceptions have been laid bare, subscribe before we reveal how to forge this knowledge into an impenetrable fortress, a citadel not of stone and mortar, but of perception and will. For the final wisdom is the armor of the prince. The ultimate response to these insidious strategies is not a counterattack, not a vengeful purge, but a profound and radical shift in consciousness. It is a coup d'état against your own naivety. The masterstroke is not an action taken against your rivals, but the establishment of an unwavering internal system for auditing reality. It is the deliberate replacement of hope with observation, of trust with verification. This is the antidote, a series of calculated mental disciplines designed to neutralize the poisons of manipulation before they can enter your system. To counteract the gilded cage of obligation, you must adopt a principle of transactional clarity. Never again accept a favor as a mere gift. You must learn to see it for what it is, the first move in a negotiation you did not realize had begun. Before accepting any significant offering of help, resources, or opportunity, you must perform a silent, ruthless calculation. Ask yourself, what is the implicit price of this generosity? What future concession will be expected in return for this present convenience? If you cannot clearly define the terms of the exchange, or if the price, a piece of your autonomy, a compromise of your principles, is one you are unwilling to pay, you must refuse the gift. It is better, as Machiavelli would assert, to achieve a smaller victory with your own forces than a greater one with the forces of another, for a victory bought with the currency of obligation is no victory at all. It is merely the signing of your own terms of surrender. Practice the art of polite, unassailable refusal. Master the power of indebted independence. To break the forged chain of mutual destruction, you must embrace the doctrine of strategic separation. Your rival seeks to intertwine his fate with yours, to make his survival synonymous with your own. The antidote is to meticulously maintain your operational sovereignty, diversify your foundations, ensure that no single project, no single alliance, no single financial instrument becomes the sole pillar upon which your entire structure rests, especially if that pillar is shared with a potential adversary. You must build redundancies and cultivate alternative paths to your objectives. Maintain a clear and defensible line of retreat in every joint venture. This is not an act of pessimism, it is the highest form of strategic foresight. It allows you to retain the lion's power to strike, for when your survival is not contingent on the survival of your enemy, your hand will not be stayed by fear. You must have the courage to amputate a diseased limb, even if it is painful, to save the entire body. Never allow yourself to be maneuvered into a position where your enemy's prison becomes your only sanctuary. To immunize yourself against the praised flaw, you must actively seek out the uncomfortable truth. The manipulator surrounds you with mirrors that reflect a glorious distortion of your weaknesses. You must shatter these mirrors by building a council of the candid. Machiavelli wrote that, "A prince who is not wise himself cannot be well advised," which means you must possess the wisdom to value criticism over comfort. You must cultivate advisors who are not afraid to disagree with you, who are rewarded for their dissent, not punished for it. These are your true loyalists, not the ones who echo your thoughts, but the ones who challenge them. You must conduct regular, unflinching self-assessments. Ask yourself, what weaknesses do my enemies see in me? Which of my habits, if amplified, would lead to my ruin? Then you must treat that flaw not as a charming eccentricity, but as a strategic vulnerability to be managed, mitigated, or eradicated. The truth may be a bitter medicine, but it is the only cure for the sweet poison of flattery. And finally, to resist the cultivation of a desert, you must become a vigilant and proactive steward of your alliances. Trust is the strategic resource your rival seeks to destroy through insinuation and ambiguity. The antidote is therefore a policy of radical, deliberate communication. Do not allow misunderstandings to fester. When you sense a growing distance with a key ally, address it directly and immediately. Do not rely on third parties to convey your intentions. In a world of whispers, your clear voice is a weapon. You must invest in your relationships during times of peace with the same intensity you would during times of war. Loyalty is not a passive state. It is an active practice, forged through shared trials, mutual respect, and unwavering reliability. While your enemy sows doubt, you must sow certainty. By making your alliances resilient, transparent, and robust, you render his desert unplantable. You create an oasis of trust that his poisons cannot reach. The consolidation of your power, then, is not the acquisition of a new title or more territory. It is the establishment of a new internal order, the creation of an unshakable state within your own mind. This inner state is sovereign, ruled by a cold, dispassionate assessment of human nature, and a relentless commitment to seeing things as they are. Its foundation is a pragmatic detachment, where the actions of others are analyzed not through the emotional lens of friendship or offense, but through the clear prism of interests and motives. You build a fortress of the mind, its walls fortified by skepticism, its watchtowers manned by vigilance, and its gates controlled by a will that refuses to be seduced, indebted, paralyzed, or isolated. Ultimately, the supreme form of power is not dominion over others, but absolute dominion over oneself. The four deceptions are not external forces that seize power. They are parasitic strategies that exploit the pre-existing flaws in your own perception, your own ego, and your own fears. They gain their strength from your refusal to acknowledge the harsh, immutable realities of the world. By choosing to see mankind not as you wish it were, but as it demonstrably is, you starve these deceptions of the darkness they need to grow. To command your power is not an act of aggression, but the ultimate act of self-awareness and intellectual courage. It is the final realization that the most secure throne is not built upon the adulation of the crowd or the fear of your enemies, but upon the unyielding bedrock of merciless clarity.